as a child. I could probably ride before I could walk. I was brought up with ponies. My father was a great rider, my grandfather was.
In Buckingham Palace's magnificent halls, rumors frequently carry more weight than royal decrees. But what happened behind closed doors this time was not kept hidden for long. The House of Windsor, which has long been known for discreet power moves and subtle silences, has been rocked by something far more visceral. A royal clash so passionate and explosive that King Charles was obliged to take unprecedented action against his own wife, Queen Camilla. And what about the eye of the storm? Not the typical suspects, not Harry, not Meghan, but Princess Anne, the no-nonsense, steel-backed sister who has for decades kept her opinions hidden under a mask of duty. Until now. What we're watching isn't simply another palace dispute. This is a seismic shift in the royal dynamic, a battle between two powerful women, Camilla, who fought her way from scandal to the throne, and Anne, born into royalty with a heritage of service that outlasts any of her siblings. Their building resentment ultimately erupted during a royal meeting, apparently resulting in a yelling confrontation so severe that aides had to be removed from the room. One palace insider referred to it as the most brutal confrontation in royal memory, while another simply termed it the moment everything broke. And Charles? The monarch who had previously given up all to protect Camilla, including his marriage and his image, stood transfixed between the two most dominant women in his life. But this time, he did not protect her. This time, he made a decision. According to several leaks and family insiders, King Charles has issued an indefinite ban on Camilla from all public royal activities. The lady who was once at the center of his universe has been discreetly relegated to the sidelines, a queen in name only, banished from the attention she once enjoyed. What caused Anne, the typically collected queen, to explode so publicly? And why, after decades of protecting Camilla, did Charles suddenly side with his sister? As more details emerge, one thing is clear. This was more than simply a brawl. It was a reckoning. Years of silent discontent, missed warning flags, and a growing perception among senior royals that Camilla has become a burden rather than a partner in duty. And now, for the first time since Diana's sad death, Camilla's grip on the monarchy is loosening, maybe permanently. Let's look at what actually happened, who won, and how this one moment may have impacted the British royal family's future forever. It was supposed to be a calm evening, a private royal meal in Sandringham attended exclusively by senior members of the family, with no cameras, assistants, or formal attire, just tradition and family harmony. But what happened in the candlelight dining hall would break that illusion forever. That night, Princess Anne and Queen Camilla engaged in a violent, unexpected argument that left even King Charles, a veteran of royal crises, startled. According to palace insiders, there was tension even before the first meal was served. Anne, who is generally calm and composed, had become more disturbed by recent accusations of Camilla meddling with royal procedure, particularly those involving Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Camilla allegedly overstepped during a public occasion by seeking to modify the seating order to benefit her own family, pushing Kate to the side in what many perceived as a direct insult. Anne had heard enough, and on this particular night, she arrived prepared with more than just quiet judgment. The tone changed as the wine flowed and the discussion went to royal obligations. Anne allegedly addressed Camilla directly at that point, in her notoriously frank manner. "You're treating the monarchy like it's your personal campaign," she allegedly remarked, her tone icy and clipped. Camilla, surprised and outraged, refused to back down. Witnesses claim she lashed back, accusing Anne of clinging to the past and refusing to embrace the modern monarchy that she and Charles were attempting to establish. The room froze. Anne, unmoved, leaned in. "You are not the monarchy," she snapped back. "You never intended to wear that crown, and deep down, you know it." It was a dagger aimed firmly at Camilla's innermost vulnerabilities. A verbal battle ensued, unlike anything the Windsors had witnessed in decades. Camilla allegedly described Anne as bitter and jealous, implying that she had always hated not being the focus of attention like Diana or Kate. Anne reacted by accusing Camilla of corrupting Charles and insulting the memory of their mother, Queen Elizabeth II, by turning royal life into a tacky soap opera. One colleague, who had been pouring drinks before being forced to leave, subsequently told a tabloid that the sounds of shouting were echoing through the corridors. The ranting lasted about 20 minutes, and when it ended, it descended quite like a thunderclap. The royals sat transfixed, their carefully maintained decorum broken. But Anne was not done. Before leaving the dinner, she turned to Camilla and reportedly shouted the words that would reverberate around the palace for days. "You should never have worn that crown. Diana should have been the only queen this family has ever needed." Insiders think that the statements had the greatest impact on King Charles. He looked down at his plate, apparently disturbed. For the first time, his sister had spoken what many people in the country now believe: Camilla's presence, no matter how legitimized by titles or time, could never replace the memory of the lady the world grieved. Following the dispute, the dinner came to an abrupt stop. Camilla stormed off. Anne went back to her private apartment in solitude. According to a friend, Charles sat alone for more than an hour, attempting to digest what had just transpired. That night was a tipping moment. Something had snapped, not only between Anne and Camilla, but across the royal family's inner circle. What was once an underlying tension had erupted into open conflict. But more crucially, it forced Charles to confront a subject he had evaded for years. Was protecting Camilla still worth ripping his family apart? The days that followed would answer that question and change everything. Outsiders may see Princess Anne as calm, if not unyielding, in the midst of royal upheaval. But beneath that renowned stiff upper lip, there are decades of silent defiance and a steel memory. Anne didn't see the dramatic meal with Camilla as a sudden departure in propriety. It was the unavoidable tipping point in a narrative that began long before Camilla ever donned a crown. The fact is that Anne never embraced Camilla, not as a royal, not as family, and especially not as queen. It all started in the shadows of the 1970s, when Anne and Camilla were both in the same royal circles. Anne had a brief love involvement with Camilla's future husband, Andrew Parker Bowles, and while the romance ended, the enmity it inspired lingered for decades. When Camilla reappeared in the royal narrative years later as Charles' mistress during his marriage to Diana, Anne's displeasure became more akin to disdain. Anne had always admired Diana. She may not have been excessively loving in public, but those close to her say Anne admired Diana's dedication to causes, her public persona, and, most importantly, her love for her kids. Diana, despite her disobedience, took her royal duties seriously. Camilla, in Anne's opinion, was something altogether different: a scandal, a disturbance, a stain on the monarchy. Even after the Queen grudgingly approved Charles and Camilla's 2005 wedding, Anne maintained her distance. There were no warm hugs, shared engagements, or sisterly trips. In reality, Anne was one of the few senior royals who refused to address Camilla as queen in private, even after the title was officially granted. Camilla would always be remembered for stepping over Diana's memory to get to the throne. There were other minor slights over the years, including seating conflicts, whispered corrections in palace hallways, and allegations that Anne would leave parties early if Camilla was speaking. Aides frequently commented on the glacial exchanges between them. However, Anne, driven by duty and familial devotion, never made a public outcry. She did not have to. Her quiet said everything. But that quiet has its bounds. Insiders report that Camilla's aggressiveness inside royal operations has increased in recent months. She began interfering in protocol choices, overruling personnel, and even gently criticizing Catherine in public. To Anne, this was more than simply poor form. It was a betrayal of all the monarchy stood for. The monarchy's survival depends on discipline, structure, and history. Anne believed Camilla had no regard for any of it. The memorable dinner confrontation was not a spontaneous outburst. It was the release valve for 40 years of suppressed wrath. Anne had remained silent during scandals, affairs, and national reaction. But when Camilla began to act as if monarchy was something to be conquered rather than revered, Anne could no longer stand by. She waited, a royal insider stated. But when she struck, she made sure it would be remembered. And it was remembered, not just for the spectacle, but also as a warning that certain disputes in the House of Windsor might simmer for decades before erupting. And when they do, the consequences are nothing short of historical. For more than 50 years, King Charles stood with Camilla, enduring public humiliation, continuous media assaults, and even the global sadness that followed Princess Diana's passing. He resisted his family, the press, and the public to keep the lady he loved by his side. However, something changed during the now famous dinner confrontation with Princess Anne. For the first time in decades, Charles did not defend Camille. He did not deflect or cover. He stood still. And then he acted. According to those close to the king, the night was deeply rattling. While Charles had previously dealt with family issues, this time was different. Anne's remarks were not yelled in wrath, but rather delivered with cool, surgical precision. They cut deep. "You should never have worn that crown." That single remark rang in Charles's mind like a church bell tolling at the end of a hallowed event. The next morning, Charles allegedly convened secretly with his key advisors. He was calm, not furious. According to some there, the debate focused on optics rather than sentiments. Legacy, stability. These are the same themes that his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, highlighted during her reign. It was evident to everyone in the room that Camilla had become a risk. Over the previous year, her increased involvement in royal decisions, which sometimes bypassed formal channels, has sparked dissatisfaction among both servants and senior royals. Her contemptuous attitude toward Kate Middleton, her behind-the-scenes maneuvering, and her alleged intervention in internal matters were all spoken in hushed tones, until Anne hauled everything into the light. But Charles's breaking point was more than simply Anne's rage. Camilla realized she was splitting the monarchy rather than unifying it. In the face of public criticism, declining popularity ratings, and a tense family, Charles did something even his toughest enemies would not expect. He chose the throne over Camilla. Within days, a carefully crafted statement had been drafted. It wasn't dramatic, and it wasn't made fully public. However, insiders claim it was sent to internal departments and trusted press liaisons. Queen Camilla would be reducing her public-facing duties indefinitely due to personal matters. Translation: she was benched. No state visits, no balcony appearances, no ceremonial responsibilities, at least not right now. The decision saddened Camilla. According to royal insiders, she felt utterly betrayed. She allegedly confronted Charles in private, accusing him of succumbing to Anne's jealousy and Kate's influence. She reminded him of all she had gone through, being labeled a villain, having her public image dragged through mud, all in the name of love and dedication to him. But Charles was unconvinced. For the first time throughout his rule, he chose quiet above sentiment. According to advisors, he told Camilla bluntly, "I cannot jeopardize the institution for the sake of one person, not even you." If accurate, those comments signify the end of an era, not merely for Charles and Camilla's union, but also for the entire nature of the monarchy they once sought to transform. The man who had once rewritten royal tradition for love was now reversing it, carefully, to defend the one thing he still had, the throne. In doing so, he may have finally become the monarch his mother had thought he would be. But at what personal cost? For years, Queen Camilla attempted to repair her image. From public charity activities to carefully controlled interviews, she worked relentlessly to transform popular perception of the other woman into a royal consort worthy of respect. And for a while, everything appeared to work, at least on the surface. But behind the gloss was a public that never quite forgot. And when the incident with Princess Anne became public, the long-simmering hatred erupted into a full-fledged reaction. The British press, already full of curiosity, seized on the news like animals on fresh meat. Every leaked comment, tense photo, and body language analysis from the disastrous meal were scrutinized by royal watchers. Even seasoned royal insiders were taken aback by the volume and intensity of the public outcry. Hashtags such as #NotMyQueen, #DianaWasTheOne, and #TeamAnne inundated social media networks. Comment sections on official royal accounts devolved into battlegrounds, with many demanding for Camilla to be stripped of her title entirely. This wasn't simply a prank. It was generational memory raising its head. The public had not forgotten Diana's grief. They had not forgotten the tapes, the interviews, or the treachery. For millions of people, Camilla had never completely earned her place. She was tolerated, but never cherished. And now, with the monarchy on a tightrope in the contemporary world, tolerance was no longer sufficient. Camilla's recent actions exacerbated the situation. While she had always been distant, palace sources believe she has become more aggressive, even controlling, behind the scenes. She allegedly sought to rearrange some ceremonial duties, fought for her family to be granted special access, and argued with Kate over minor but symbolic issues like seating at high-profile functions. To the public, it spoke of entitlement. Camilla, they believed, had spent years attempting to rebuild the monarchy in her image, one that was more theatrical, exclusive, and less based in the calm dignity Queen Elizabeth had assiduously cultivated. The difference became brutally evident when Camilla was seen wearing an opulent designer coat, said to cost tens of thousands of pounds at a time, when Britons were grappling with inflation, job losses, and energy shortages. The photographs prompted controversy, with headlines calling her the tone-deaf queen. However, it wasn't simply opulence. It was her hostility toward Catherine, the family's most popular member after Diana. Footage of Camilla appearing to brush by Kate at an engagement reappeared online, generating millions of views. Royal analysts referred to it as subtle sabotage, and even palace-friendly sites began to surreptitiously change their tone. Then came the pivotal moment, the leaked facts of her shouting confrontation with Anne. The people became not just critical, but also enraged. The storyline shifted from reluctant acceptance to blatant rejection. Camilla became the ideal storm of negative optics for a monarchy still reeling from Harry and Meghan's departure, scandals involving Andrew, and rising Republican fervor in the Commonwealth. She was more than simply a public relations concern. She was a liability. Faced with declining favor ratings and rising pressure, palace advisors allegedly encouraged Charles to move quickly. not only for appearances, but for survival. In the contemporary era, the crown does not fall in a single day. It's being chipped away, one unpopular royal at a time. In this struggle for the monarchy's future, Camilla had officially become its weakest link. In a family characterized by history and ritual, relationships are rarely based only on feeling. However, following Camilla's sudden fall from popularity, an odd alliance began to form, one that no one inside the palace anticipated. Princess Anne, the fiercely independent royal enforcer, and Catherine, the poised and loving Princess of Wales, gradually became closer. And what began as cautious respect quickly evolved into something far more powerful, a unified front against everything Camilla represented. For years, Anne and Kate had kept a cold, although courteous distance. Anne, toughened by decades of royal life, recognized Catherine as a lady still adjusting to the weight of the crown. Kate, on the other hand, loved Anne's direct approach, but found her scary. The two ladies seldom overlapped in engagements, and when they did, their interactions were brief, professional, and meticulously planned. But everything changed after the spectacular royal banquet. According to royal sources, Anne approached Kate the very following morning. Not with an apology, Anne was never one for drama, but with a calm offer of assistance. She allegedly remarked something simple yet direct. "You are the future, and it's about time the monarchy started acting like it." These remarks struck a chord, because for the first time, Anne wasn't simply defending the institution, but also Kate. Camilla's removal created a hole in royal leadership, and Anne stepped in to assist fill it, not with fanfare or news coverage, but with quiet mentorship. Behind the scenes, she began incorporating Kate in classified briefings, providing historical context and guiding her through regulations that only a seasoned royal would understand. From state banquets to Commonwealth matters, Anne became Kate's shadow counselor, mentoring her not just as a sister-in-law, but also as a fellow combatant for the Queen. Kate prospered. Those around her sensed a shift. She conducted herself with greater authority, took harder views in planning sessions, and grew more outspoken about royal duties. With Anne's help, Kate began to shape her position as the future queen, rather than merely a royal consort. She understood what was at stake: the monarchy's public image, her children's legacy, and Diana's unfinished business. Anne and Kate represented what the monarchy had been missing: unity based on purpose rather than ego. Whereas Camilla sought control by power plays and persuasion, Anne and Kate acted with calm determination. Their friendship was formed not through emotion, but by shared principles like service, discipline, and survival. Public appearances quickly reflected this new dynamic. The two began appearing at events together, standing side by side during ceremonies, and sharing nonverbal looks. Royal analysts observed a new energy around the monarchy, indicating that the future was now in capable hands. Even behind the royal walls, the tone changed. Staffers who had previously whispered about factionalism now spoke of the Windsor women, Anne and Kate, as the stabilizing influences Charles sorely needed. While Camilla fled into solitude, the crown discreetly switched its attention to the ladies who never sought attention, but always recognized the gravity of their responsibilities. In the end, Anne and Kate's surprising partnership rescued the monarchy from further disintegration. And according to a royal aide, when the Queen fell, it wasn't a king who stepped in to stabilize the house. It was two women the world underestimated, and neither of them bears the name Camilla. She once stood on palace balconies beside King Charles, dressed in royal jewels and shrouded in centuries of history. However, Queen Camilla is no longer seen, just spoken about. There are no more spectacular entrances, public grins, or headlines applauding her elevation. The lady who spent decades battling her way into royal acceptability now finds herself barred from the exact spotlight she once strove for. According to palace insiders, Camilla has returned to Ray Mill House, her own Wiltshire house, which she has always used as a personal hideaway, even after becoming queen consort. And now her escape has turned into a prison. She no longer attends state gatherings. Her name has been quietly removed from any forthcoming royal excursions. Her office has reduced communications, while the palace gives polite justifications: health, private time, adjustments. Those who read between the lines know the truth. Camilla has been gone. Even her once unshakable connection with King Charles is thought to be strained. Though he sees her behind closed doors, the hard fact is that his public tasks are now carried out without her. The throne may make place for love, but not at the expense of unity, heritage, and survival. And for Charles, accepting the crown meant abandoning the lady he had defied an empire for. The public has found the silence deafening and revealing. There is no outcry for her return. There are no grassroots campaigns. There's no nostalgia. Just a faint sigh of satisfaction that the monarchy has finally altered its path. In the end, Camilla's biggest mistake was not her history. She misunderstood the present. She felt that authority resided in the title, the crown, and closeness to the king. However, true authority in the royal family has always been derived from public trust and familial loyalty, which she could never completely achieve. So now, in her golden exile, Camilla watches as Anne and Kate, the two ladies she most undervalued, carry the monarchy forward in her absence. The queen has gone, and no one is urging her to return.